Most tier lists on the internet that rank Pokemon by their viability for a Nuzlocke challenge run are trash, including my old ones from a few years ago. They always fail to capture the sheer variety of strategies that are able to be used in their respective games. I feel like our community needs a much more scientific approach for making these. That's why I've started meticulously testing every single Pokemon game one by one, and today we're looking at Pokemon Emerald. I spent over 80 hours systematically testing every single one of the 98 possible encounters in this game to see how they do at every single point they're available at. And let me tell you, after completing my list, some of these old tier lists look like absolute dog shit. I'm sorry, if you think Swampert is S tier in this game, you have no idea what you're doing. The crazy potential that some of these other Pokemon have completely outshines this mediocre bag of mud. Some of the Pokemon that rose to the top during my testing feel like they have absolutely no business standing above the others, and out of all the games I've researched so far, this is easily the one with the most out there and creative strategies available to the player. As always, I'm assuming standard hardcore Nuzlocke rules here, so only catch the first Pokemon you encounter on every route. If a Pokemon faints, it's dead. Play on set mode, no items in battle, no overleveling the next gym leader, and no phones at the table, man. Your mom already talked to you about this. If you enjoyed this series in particular, or just want to see more high-level, nerdy, technical Nuzlocke content to put on your second monitor while you play old-school RuneScape or pretend to fill out Google Sheets or whatever, do us both a favor and subscribe. I've been so close to hitting 1 million for so long. Please, I need this, please! I'm pChal. I've been Nuzlocking on YouTube for 10 years, and I've never been able to emotionally move past a game that came out in 2004, which I guess would make it 22 now? Let's see, half of 30 is 15 plus 7. This is the definitive Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke tier list. F tier features failures, flops, frauds, fulfilling, frankly, fuck all. These are the Pokemon that at best do nothing useful at all, and at worst, actively hurt your run when added to your team. While Huntail is mediocre at worst, what makes it score at the absolute bottom of this list is opportunity cost. If you have Huntail, you chose to not evolve it into Gorbis, which gets access to some incredibly nifty support tools, none of which Huntail can utilize. It's like choosing a Clash of Clans player as best strategy game streamer, which I'm not mad about, I'm just saying. Similarly, Snorunt can only be encountered in the lower floors of Shoal Cave, an area where you would much rather pick up a guaranteed encounter we'll be seeing at a much higher position in the tier list. The Ice type doesn't even do anything on the Dragon Elite 4 member. If I wanted a cold-hearted monster with a big mouth to ghost me, I would just text my ex. Both being a rock type and a physical wall are some of the worst attributes to have for a late game Emerald Pokemon. Regirock still has legendary stats, but you're going to want to use your Master Ball on a different Regi for sure. So the risk of losing a Pokemon while attempting to catch this through all of its curse and ancient power boosts is simply not worth taking, making it a bottom 3 Pokemon. For those that want to use legendaries, I guess. If I wanted help from someone who felt like talking to a wall, I would just start dating men, am I right, ladies? Alright, that's enough feminism for this video. Speaking of physical walls with water weaknesses that are only available in mid and late game, Donphan, Rhydon, and Sandslash won't achieve anything near runs by the time they come online. Luvdisc is the worst water type in a game filled to the brim with them. If this was a card game, I'd call Luvdisc pack filler, but in modern terms, I guess you would call it water gooning raincoat for encounter jesters that got stat mogged by bulk maxers or something. I don't know what the fuck anyone's saying anymore, man. I'm ranking trait evolutions separately this time, and Machoke is definitely the one that suffers the most from losing out on evolving. I couldn't find a single fight where this guy does anything useful. You would think that if Corsola had a niche in any Elite Four, it would be the one with the Ice-type trainer. But no. Normal types really have to shine through their move pool and stats in this game, and unfortunately, Spinna doesn't have either. You ever notice it kind of looks like if a Labubu was an alcoholic? By the time you get Mawile, it's way too late for it to be a factor, as it can only be caught in Victory Road. Also, seriously, what the hell is this level up moveset, man? Jesus Christ! Another Pokemon that got absolutely shafted by Gen 3's awful level up movesets is Crobat. It gets no moves to use on Brawly, which you'd think it would be able to sweep. This also happens to be a generation without a single grass-type boss fight, so you never get to take advantage of what usually makes this a good Pokemon. At least it's a useful dupe to have for some areas, since you can't catch the same Pokemon twice in a Nuzlocke. On the topic of terrible poison types, Seviper and Muck have no good matchup worth mentioning, so instead, enjoy this picture my co-writer drew of me as a Wojak. Feels kinda mean-spirited, but I guess that's the point. Finally, in F tier, Altaria is in this game. Honestly, she's kind of a disappointment though, and by far the worst Dragon Dance user. She just doesn't have the damage to sweep any of the important fights with +6 return, even if you manage to find your entry point. It doesn't kill like anything. What's the point of this Pokemon exactly? I guess that's why they call her DD. So let's say, hypothetically, you had a bad habit, and that habit had you ordering from a certain app a lot. And your horrible sleep schedule and your addiction to League of Legends led to critical mass of fast food paper bags in your room that tripped your girlfriend to 3 years, and now she doesn't want to come over anymore. I mean that person probably needs to find a way to be a little more responsible with their money if they plan on getting their girlfriend the 24-karat gold apology Labubu. And that's where today's sponsor comes in, Rocket Money. If you're like me, and you never worked a real day job in your life, Hey, who wrote this? If you're like me and you need a lesson on how to have a little more foresight with your funds, Rocket Money is an incredibly safe and easy way to track past and potential future spending. By securely linking any of your appropriate financial accounts, you can use either automatic or custom categories to help you see a top-down view of where exactly your money is going. For example, you could use a category that just says food, but this might not be specific enough. For me, there's a difference between spending on dining out with friends to celebrate a special event and spending on delivery when I know I have food at home I can make. Custom categories in Rocket Money's tracking feature allows me to separate what might seem like similar purchases into different groups, so I know when I've been too lax with my spending habits and when I can afford to indulge a little. On top of that, setting up automated savings allows me to make sure I have emergency funds or a budget for an upcoming event by letting me put aside a fixed amount for whatever period of time I need. No paperwork, no setting up a separate account, just streamlining savings, all done within the app. If you're in the US, go to rocketmoney.com/pokemonchallenges, that's rocketmoney.com/pokemonchallenges, all one word, and you can get started on a new financial journey today for free. You even get a free trial of premium with that code using the QR code on screen right now or by clicking the link in the description. Thank you, Rocket Money. We call this tier the C section because if you're getting your Pokemon from here, something clearly went wrong. Delcatty has absolutely no reliable uses in battle. Look at him. He's been domesticated. You think he can survive in the wild? He has no survival instincts. There is, however, a niche for this Pokemon when you're not fighting. The ability Cute Charm allows you to manipulate the genders of your encounters. Male Skitty can find females to beat the Attractmons on Flannery and Juan's team, and the female Skitty has a use that we'll be talking about much later. Yawn is a really good move. 100% accurate sleep is so valuable even if you have to wait a turn. The move is so good that it makes Slugma and Magcargo C-tier Pokemon on their own. If this guy evolved at a remotely appropriate level, it would actually be a great tool for Norman at Winona, but as it stands, yawning and dying is all the slug can do. Exploud can sweep Sydney and Phoebe with Howl and Taunt, but then you're bringing Exploud to the Elite Four fights that are actually difficult. It is, however, a guaranteed encounter with no opportunity cost in Rust Turf Tunnel, so just keep this guy on your team in case you ever need an emergency sacrifice, I guess. Camerupt and Ninetales are answers to Winona's Skarmory. That's it. That's their whole thing. Beautifly is truly atrocious on every fight in the game except for Brawly, where it is one of the few Pokemon that actually reliably sweeps. Weezing can be a fun Pokemon to use on the Elite Four because it kind of solos Sydney and can do a ton versus Phoebe with Shadow Ball, as well as give you a free kill somewhere with Explosion. Also swapping into Gyarados Earthquake and potentially killing with Thunderbolt could be good. There's something here, I'm just not sure how to put the pieces together yet. Lileep has precisely one niche. You can build your own Leech Seed with Ingrain and Sandstorm and stall out Norman. With Confuse Ray, Bullet Seed, and a stolen Citrus Berry from the Slackoth in the room before Norman, you can make your father's life hell with the slowest fight you've ever seen. It's a total dud from there, and its evolution to Cradily doesn't save it whatsoever, but the Norman solo was one of the most fun lines for me to find in my whole testing. I really grew attached to this Pokemon. Claydol is pretty much completely useless up until the second to last fight in the game, at which point it can fill a hyper-specific niche. Against Drake, Claydol can switch in on Flygon's Earthquake and shut it down with Ice Beam. Then against Wallace, you can lead it and use Explosion to take out the lead Wailord, which leaves you in a decent position, as you choose your switch before the AI does, allowing for a plethora of follow-up options. The fact that you only get one rest TM makes any Pokemon that learns that move naturally at least worth considering. Wigglytuff can also learn like every TM in the game, which gives it the classic Bolt Beam combo to take on Winona. It's also a Cute Charmer. One of the most dangerous opponents in all of Pokemon Emerald, nay, in all of vanilla Nuzlocking, is this fucking thing. Juan's double team spam rest Kingdra. Its typing means that nothing can deal proper damage to it before it heals up, and eventually all of your Pokemon are just missing their moves. I've probably seen more people lose their casual Nuzlocks to this Pokemon than any other Pokemon in the series. To make sure you don't become its next victim, I would like to introduce you to a special segment here in C tier. Pokemon that have an extremely niche way of beating Juan's Kingdra, but are otherwise completely useless. Tropius can start the fight by setting up Sun and getting a couple kills with Solar Beam before bowing out and leaving a better Pokemon on your team in position to sweep. By entering the fight pre-damage, you can make sure that Kingdra goes for the kill on Tropius, letting you send anything you want into a Kingdra with no accuracy boosts and massive chip damage from Tropius' Solar Beam. Okay, so basically, Horn Drill's accuracy is unaffected by Double Team. It always stays at 30%. Seeking's typing and bulk allow it to tank enough Water Pulses and Ice Beams to let you use up all 5 of its Horn Drill PP, giving you a whopping 84% chance to kill this demon. If you can pair Wobbuffet with an Agility Passer, it can give you a guaranteed kill on the Seahorse. The plan? Pre-paralyze your Gorbis and set up 2 agilities, enough for Wobbuffet to outspeed, but Gorbis, when paralyzed, to underspeed Kingdra. Gorbis tanks a move from Kingdra and gives its boost to your Wobbuffet, which you pre-damaged before the fight. Now, Kingdra sees kill and has to go for it, not before your amped up punching bag uses Destiny Bond. Because Destiny Bond is a self-targeting move, you do not care how many double teams Juan managed to set up before you pull this off. A highly conditional, highly technical, but consistent counter. If you find an entry point on Kingdra, ideally by sacrificing your Exploud or something, Banette and Dusclops can both secure an eventual victory by using a self-targeting curse. The guaranteed damage over time will make sure you win eventually. Kecleon's niche is really small, but really cool. For one, he's literally me. When you leave a mean comment, this is who you're hurting, by the way. You can skip your first accuracy check with Skill Swap, giving Kingdra the ability Color Change. Now, you can click Aerial Ace to turn it into a flying type, and from here, the world is your oyster. Kecleon can set up Rain Dance for a Thunder user in the back to get a super effective hit that cannot miss. It can even use Thunder itself to have a pretty good shot of winning, as it has excellent special defense and will have Kingdra's Swift Swim ability to outspeed. This strategy does have a lot of intricacies, like the fact that surviving with Thunder will turn Kingdra into an electric type, possibly denying the kill before it rests. You can skill swap back after it becomes a flying type to lock that typing in, but then you're giving it Swift Swim back. You're gonna have to adapt and find your own way of capitalizing on this position, but it is one of the most beautiful strategies I've found in all of my testing. And with that, back to the rest of C tier. Cast Form has some really cool utility against Winona. You have to be really smart with your weather setting to make it work, but there is a beautiful solo line to be made through this fight for Cast Form. Rain Dance, Hail, Weather Ball, and Thunderbolt do such strong work in this fight that it almost feels like they designed this fight just for Cast Form. Lombre does not learn a water move until you get your Surf HM, and can't get a Water Stone until you get your Dive HM, heavily limiting its early and mid-game use. It still rolls over Roxanne, but honestly, that's kind of it. You'd really expect a Pokemon with this typing to go crazy in a game with so many water type boss fights, but its access to grass moves is perhaps even more limited than its access to water moves. Giga Drain only having 5 PP really hurts this guy. Its best use is probably taking water moves while you're PP stalling one of the 2 Demon Kingdras. Swellow wants those sexy Nuzlocke montage pre-poison guts facade sweeps. Unfortunately, it comes up short on every fight after Brawly. It doesn't get good normal moves to deal with Watson and lacks facade for Norman, both of which would be necessary for it to pack enough punch. The big issue is that this Pokemon really only works as a late game guts facade sweeper if you roll an exceptionally high attack stat. Otherwise, it just fails to get so many important kills, and at that point, why are you bringing it? Aggron's one big niche is the Norman fight as an Aeron. It can handle the Spinda, Vigoroth, and Lanoon on its own, and as long as you have something that can take a few moves from slacking, its typing alone can help you stall your way to the finish line. It can also help Nincada PP stall Watson's Pokemon if the bug is your only ground type. After Norman, it's a physical wall that's weak to water. Female Nosepass has a comfortable winning matchup against Torkoal thanks to Thunder Wave and the fact that it's the only rock type in the whole game to learn Rock Slide. It's also a great wall against Norman. Additionally, Magnet-Pull gives you a much better chance of encountering Skarmory on Route 117. Chimecho is by far the worst recipient in the game for the one-time use Calm Mind TM, mostly due to its low speed, but it still is a Calm Mind user and can potentially serve you some late game sweeps if you're willing to dodge crits. Topping off C tier, Sceptile isn't bad at all compared to the other Pokemon in this tier, but with starters, you always have to be thinking about opportunity cost. Unfortunately, Sceptile is pretty inconsistent in the early game after destroying Roxanne, and it needs disturbingly good luck to solo the Water Gym as the game's grass starter. You can get some good use out of it in the Elite Four, but even with Overgrow, you can't sweep any of them. Again, if this was any other Pokemon, it'd probably be at least B tier, but it doesn't stand up to either Blaziken or Swampert, which is kind of sad, because it's such a unique take on a grass starter. Before we get into B tier, let's talk a little bit about some Pokemon that didn't make it onto this tier list for one reason or another. Roselia, Masquerain, Medicham, Zangoose, and Lunatone are all unavailable in Pokemon Emerald and can only be found in Ruby and Sapphire. Some puzzling choices by Game Freak here, for sure, but whatever. Just because I know it's going to come up, Beldum can't be encountered before you beat the champion in these games, so Metagross obviously doesn't get a rating. Rayquaza can't be caught within Nuzlocke rules, as it overlevels the Elite Four level cap. I don't think I need to tell you what tier it would be though. It's also not the most broken illegal Pokemon. That title, of course, goes to Shedinja. Now, I could put on my nerd glasses and tell you about how a Shedinja is illegal because it doesn't conform to Nuzlocke rules. It's the same evolution family as Ninjask and therefore counts as a duplicate that can't be added to your team. Additionally, it has the same Met location as Ninjask, so it isn't even the first Pokemon you encountered on a route. Pretty clear case, right? The reality is that if Nuzlockers wanted to, we could bend the rules to make Shedinja legal because, hey, getting 2 Pokemon out of one evolution could be fun, right? Having fun is the whole point. The real reason why Shedinja will never be a legal encounter in my rule set is the fact that it is one of the most game-warpingly boring Pokemon to use. Every single matchup becomes a question of, can this Pokemon hit Shedinja? If it can't, you've won. If it can, what Pokemon can I put on my team that resists the moves that hit Shedinja, such that I can infinitely PP stall the fight by switching back and forth? That's it. That's every fight from the moment you add Shedinja to your team. It takes literally all interesting strategy and planning out of your run. Since all Nuzlocke rules are self-imposed, why would I allow myself to do something that makes the game both more boring and easier? If the point of a Nuzlocke is to challenge yourself to find more creative paths through the game, while you can certainly allow a ton of stuff on technicality or clauses, what is the point of bending your own rules? Sure, no one's gonna stop you, but you also aren't really getting away with anything here. Speaking of things that are banned because of how game warping they are, there's also two moves that I didn't test when making this tier list: Double Team and Substitute. Both of these moves are learned by every Pokemon in the game, and both of them offer no strategic depth whatsoever. Yes, every Pokemon can in theory beat every single fight by finding an entry point to spam Double Team. This changes nothing about the Pokemon's viability. It just makes the fight more boring. Substitute is a more subtle case because in theory, it's a very fun move to use. In practice though, AI cannot deal with Substitute Pokemon at all. It doesn't even see that you have a Substitute up and will continue to spam non-damaging moves into you, giving you an insane amount of free turns. Are some useless Pokemon on this list better when used with Substitute? Absolutely. But the reality is that Substitute makes almost every Pokemon in the game better, and importantly, would just make the Pokemon found at the top of the tier list even more dominant. Feel free to use Substitute in your run, at least that move only has a one-time use tutor, so you have to choose who can best utilize it, but me personally, I had no interest in investigating exactly which Pokemon can break the game the most with this move. With that out of the way, let's move on to B tier. The B tier, or Bi tier, because they fulfill at least two niches. Also, they're all woke and gay. Solrock has two niches instead of one, making it, in my book, B tier. Rollout from the tutor in Mauville destroys Flannery to the point where you can afford missing like two of them. Its typing and ability also make it a fantastic Altaria answer on Winona. Torkoal can take an overheat and win the mirror match against Flannery's own Torkoal by setting up a curse to give it the edge. It learns both Flamethrower and Protect by level up, making it an absolutely free Norman sweeper. On Winona, it can take out her Skarmory. Swalot, like Macargo, is useful in part just because it's a bulky Pokemon that can use Yawn. It gets Encore and Toxic as well. It provides pretty solid support on Watson, Flannery, Norman, and Winona in particular. Dustox sweeps Brawly, but manages to separate itself a bit from Beautifly with niches on a few other fights. It can do well against Watson as long as you have something else to deal with the Magneton, and it can 1v1 slacking thanks to Protect. You can actually sweep Wand with Dustox, but you have to get insanely lucky. Unless you're me, in which case you just have to be the world's greatest Nuzlocker, and okay, fine, I cheated. With the right loadout, Grumpig can sweep the game's final gym fight at the expense of your Calm Mind TM, and you can teach your Shockwave TM to have an actual answer to hit Kingdra through its double teams. It's not useless on the other fights. With Thick Fat, it stands up well to Flannery's Torkoal, and it can do a very funny sweep against Winona with the help of one of our S tier Pokemon. More on that later. Dodrio is so close to being an actually good Pokemon for this run. Granted, you'll have to invest your one and only Taunt TM, but the things it can do with this investment are so sick nasty, it might be worth making this objectively wrong play. Dodrio can taunt Juan's Love Disc and set up 2 attack boosts using the move Rage, giving it a very high chance to one-shot Kingdra. You can then execute a pretty similar strategy on Sydney, and if your stats in nature are particularly good, Glacia too. It's not useless on Phoebe, Drake, and Wallace either. You really should never do this because there is at least one much better Taunt TM user on the Elite Four, and also there's better areas to go for in the Safari Zone. Still, Dodrio gets some massive style points. Whiscash is a bulky water type with Ice Beam and Earthquake and is useful almost by default. Not resisting water makes it one of the worst bulky waters though. Graveler and Golem both land in the same spot because at all points where these Pokemon stand out over something like Rhydon, they're still a Geodude, which does completely sweep Watson, a genuinely rough fight if you don't have a ground type. That only matters if you don't pick Mudkip though. Yeah, this is just kind of a rough game for rock types, huh? There's a canyon of difference between Kadabra and Alakazam, but Kadabra still has enough early game speed and power to reach B tier. It destroys Brawly's fighting types, obviously. It's great against Watson with Synchronize and a Cherry Berry. Against Flannery, it's a perfect option to come in after Torkoal kills something and get the revenge KO. Azumarill is one of the most consistent solo counters to Flannery in the whole game. It also has a great matchup at Brawly thanks to being a bulky Pokemon with access to a special move that bypasses bulk up defense boosts. Also, friend-shaped. Vileplume and Blossom can finish off Juan and Wallace with an endgame Sunny Day Solar Beam sweep, but need a lot of support and good positioning to get it done. Blossom is a little bit worse at finding kills than Vileplume, but it's better at setting up against the Whiscash on the Wallace fight thanks to an Earthquake resistance. Oddish is also a very important dupe for mid-game, giving you much greater odds at finding good Pokemon in the Safari Zone. Mightyena actually has some sauce. It's a dark type for Tate and Liza, the value of which really can't be overstated, and we'll get into why later. It also does good work against Roxanne. Equip an Oran Berry and mash Sand Attack against Roxanne's Nose Pass, and you should usually win with Bite, making it the only non-grass or water type to be able to solo this early game roadblock. Why wouldn't you have a grass or water type for Roxanne? Well, honestly, the only value the Blaziken line has before the Elite Four is that Combusken beats Watson's Magneton, if you're willing to grind for an early Flamethrower TM from the game corner. but Marshtomp makes that fight trivial anyway, so what's the point? Blaziken provides a form of value in the Elite Four I can only describe as brain space. Blaziken can solo Sydney if you swap it in after something else tanks the Intimidate. With Break and a White Herb to cancel out a Sand attack, the fight is free. Bulk Up Blaziken also takes on Phoebe if you save your Earthquake TM. Curse sounds like it would be a problem, but if you just bait Curse with another Pokemon, Dusclops will be too low to click Curse again, so you're free to sweep. Glacia is easy with 2 Bulk Ups being free on Celio thanks to its AI always going for Hail on turn 1 and it not having a water move to follow up. Equip a Cherry Berry for Body Slam Paralysis and you're easily sweeping. Blaziken even learns Bulk Up naturally, so you don't have to save your TM for it. By picking Torchic, you are saying, I will not have to worry about the first 3 Elite Four members and can focus the rest of my 5 final team slots on beating only Drake and Wallace. That's a pretty good plan. Flygon is also known as the Kendrick Pokemon because it ends Drake's whole career. It serves as one of the only solid 1v1 counters to his Kingdra in the whole game, with the stats to soak up neutral damage from both Surf and Body Slam, and the ability to hit hard with Dragon Claw. This Kingdra can spiral out of control completely, and every good Elite Four team needs a plan to deal with it. Against Wallace, Flygon can come in and beat Tentacruel, which always baits Gyarados, and usually baits it into Hyper Beaming. Flygon definitely dies to that Hyper Beam, but earning a free switch in front of a recharging Gyarados is usually enough to get you across the finish line. Machamp is pretty damn good, but everything it does, Hariyama does just as well while bringing some extra stuff to the table. There is a niche for a powerful fighting type in this game, which we'll get into in the Hariyama section. The one fight where this Pokemon really shines over Hariyama is Flannery, as it gets Low Kick as a high damage move against her heavy Pokemon. If you use a Bulk Up TM here, Machamp can sweep where Hariyama can't. Skarmory offers some incredible defensive support in a few fights, most notably Norman, where she absolutely shuts down his whole team with Leer, Steel Wing, and a stolen Citrus Berry, as long as you don't take too much damage from Spinda. Just make sure to Leer on attacking turns for slacking to avoid counter. It's also maybe the single most reliable Altaria counter in the whole game. It falls off pretty hard in the late game. Like I said, physical walls are just not that good anymore here, but it can set down some valuable spikes against both Juan and Wallace, which might just be the extra damage you need for your late game sweeper to get things done. Lantern is just about a full counter to Juan's team, only having to run from Whiscash. Rain Dance and Thunder can beat Kingdra through double team. Honestly, I thought it was going to be better though. Lantern is not anywhere near as useful in the Elite Four, even against Wallace where it's merely an okay melodic counter. Maybe with reliable recovery this could be more useful, but it doesn't do enough to warrant investing your rest TM. Magneton, in addition to obviously being a government surveillance drone, is decent by virtue of being an electric type, giving it great matchups against Winona, Juan, Glacia, and Wallace. Although you do need to get a little bit lucky with your speed stat to outrun Wallace's Wailord. The lack of speed is a problem in other ways too. It's one of the worst electric types for Wallace because it's slower than Wallace's Gyarados. As such, it's one of the few electric types that fails to reach A tier. Dragon Dance is an egg move on Salamence, and its use cases are therefore quite limited in the Elite Four. While it does easily sweep Sydney, Drake is where the pseudo-legendary shines. It can slice through most of Drake's team, and most importantly is a strong answer to his Kingdra thanks to Intimidate and a water resistance. On Wallace, it won't be a sweeper, but it can be a solid answer to 1 or 2 Pokemon depending on what you need to counter. It's solid against either Ludicolo, Gyarados, or Whiscash. It's better than Flygon, but not by as much as you would think. Sableye obviously isn't overwhelming anything with damage, but does offer some unique utility as an incredibly early ghost type. Brawly simply cannot hit this. Flannery's Torkoal can't hit it with Body Slam, which means you can use Sableye to reliably bait special attack dropping overheats. On Norman, it's only hit by Feint Attack from Vigoroth and Slacking, the latter of which it can simply outmaneuver with Detect and a PP restoring Lepaberry. It's also another dark type for Tate and Liza. This guy really is a typing on a stick. It's just really good at not taking damage. If it was any more avoidant, I'd probably be double texting it right now. Honestly, Pinsir is actually pretty insane. Its access to Bulk Up TM and later Swords Dance for the Elite Four give it some lethal sweep opportunities on almost every late game fight that would in a vacuum make this a high A tier Pokemon. It's just that Safari Zone encounters that are found in other areas than Pinsir are even more ridiculous and can run those sweeps even more consistently. If you're doing a less optimized run, I highly recommend shooting for this demon as your encounter though. It's insanely fun to use. Grass Dark is actually perfect for Tate and Liza, making Cacturne one of their best answers. Thanks to the damage it can do with Needle Arm, you'll be able to combine this with a dark type in the front along with a water type in the back to win every time. This guy also has some insane synergy with Baton Passers that can give it speed as it gets Ingrain and Giga Drain to heal itself and growth to boost its special attack, although these strats are usually pretty risky. Rounding out our B tier Pokemon is one of the best Tate and Liza counters in the game. In addition, Sharpedo can sweep Phoebe as long as you don't get crit by Earthquake from her Dusclops. Against Drake, as long as you rolled a decent speed stat, you can outrun both Salamence and Flygon and delete them with the 4 times effective Ice Beam. Honestly, it's not an amazing Elite Four Pokemon though, there's better options. Alright, let's talk about why Dark types are so good on Tate and Liza. Tate and Liza is what I would call a solved fight, meaning that there is a 100% guaranteed way to beat them with encounters every runner is guaranteed to have. There's a great video on this by Dala Mike that goes into a lot of detail on why Pelipper and Crawdont or Sharpedo will always beat this fight, but variations on this strategy really work with any Dark type. Check out their video on this if you'd like to learn more. This section is called A tier because when these Pokemon come out, that's what your enemy will shed. A tier. A tier. No, not like League of Legends. Like, never mind. Here's where they get really good. These Pokemon fulfill either multiple roles where they run excellently, or consistently solve some of the hardest challenges in the game. Pelipper is a really strong early and mid-game Pokemon. With Growl, Wing Attack, and a special move in Water Gun, you have the perfect fighting resist for Brawly. It can't quite get you all the way through Flannery, but it's strong enough to deal with everything but the Torkoal. Protect gives you a lot of control over the turn counter in that fight as well, which is relevant with Sunny Day and Light Screen. This also lets it beat Norman slacking. It can solo Winona with Ice Beam and Shockwave. Then there's its previously mentioned role against Tate and Liza, after which it falls off pretty hard, as it doesn't have a good answer to Juan's Kingdra or anything in the Elite Four. What pushed this thing out of B tier for me is that it's the most reliable way of thieving Torkoal's White Herb on Flannery, which might seem like a lot of effort, but I've hung out with weirder people for cheaper weed. Starmie shows up pretty late and is only useful on 2 fights, but those fights are pretty big deals. On Juan, it can just Cosmic Power up to +6/+6, and with 20 PP on Recover, you can't be touched, as nothing 1 KOs with a crit. Then it's pretty much stuck on the bench until Glacia, where it's still quite scared of Glalie, but Drake really has no answer to this thing. Ice Beam deletes pretty much his whole team, and Starmie is so fast that most Mons can't do anything about it. Thunderbolt and Psychic let it patch some big holes on your Wallace plan as well. Relicanth is actually useless in battle, but it's up here because it allows you to catch Registeel and Regice. Alongside Wailord, a guaranteed encounter, this Pokemon is required to open the Regi Chambers. However, it's just a 5% underwater encounter, right? Well, we can help our chances here quite a lot utilizing something known as repel manipping, where we repel with a Pokemon of a certain level at the front of the party to change our encounter pool. Doing this correctly increases our chances at opening up the legendary encounters to a whopping 50%. Alakazam learns Calm Mind via level up, which gives it a massive leg up against the psychic types that need to use a TM for it. It also gains a massive tier boost by the sheer fact that you can theoretically have it by the time you fight Brawly, a fight it obliterates, alongside providing massive help on Watson and Flannery. It is still, all things considered, really underwhelming, given the damage potential it feels like it should have, as its frailty makes it much harder to set up within late game. It's outclassed by even better Calm Mind sweepers, but if you do find some good mons to support it, it can be lethal. Anorith gets Protect, making it a great slacking answer, but it's Armaldo that really sticks out to me here. Battle Armor is one of the best abilities in Nuzlocke. Where this really matters is that your opponent can't hit through your boosted defenses. Armaldo can become virtually unkillable when combined with Baton Pass Iron Defense and Amnesia boosts, making it one of the best Baton Pass receivers of the game, assuming you invest your rest TM. There are angles to use this to beat pretty much any Elite Four member if you set up correctly. But let's finally get into some of these Baton Passers that I've been talking about so much. Ninjask learns Baton Pass during the Juan split. The combination of Speed Boost, Swords Dance, and Baton Pass is theoretically a fight winner anytime you can find a chance to set up. That being said, it didn't actually feel as dominant as I expected. There's this bug. Yeah, it's Ninjask, bro. There's this bug where Glacia Celio won't click Hail on turn 1 like it normally does because the Gen 3 AI thinks Hail is already up when your Pokemon has Speed Boost. Seriously. This is a bug that was discovered like last year. This costs Ninjask a valuable setup turn on her. Drake's whole team also does too much damage for you to pass more than a single speed boost to a clear body Pokemon or something. Still, the strong setup lines on Juan, Phoebe, and Wallace are enough to get Ninjask over the A tier hurdle, especially because I feel like you can probably find more ways of utilizing the boost that I didn't even find in my testing. Girafarig is a Baton Pass user that learns Agility and Calm Mind, giving extremely unique value. That combination alone makes it Elite Four viable, but Girafarig isn't just here to set someone else up for the glory. Girafarig itself can take advantage of the sorry, I just thought of the bug joke again. Girafarig itself can take advantage of these setup moves to sweep in some fights. It takes 3 Calm Minds to beat Juan, which means you have to get a bit lucky against his Love Disc while you set up. With 2 Calm Minds, it can beat Phoebe, and with 3, it can beat Glacia. Against Drake, it's limited to passing, but it can go back to attacking against Wallace, where it can be a strong starting mon that can go up to +2 and take out Wailord and Tentacruel before setting up something else for the finish. Shroomish actually deserves the A tier slot more than Breloom. Shroomish gets to learn some of the most broken moves in the game. Leech Seed at level 10, and then if you delay the evolution all the way until level 54, 31 levels after it could evolve, Shroomish learns Spore, the only fully accurate single turn sleep move in the game. Because of this, I tested both Breloom and Shroomish on every fight before the Elite Four. It clean sweeps Roxanne, it does very well into Brawly, consistently winning by itself if you invest the Bullet CTM into it, and here's where it splits. You can evolve into Breloom on the Watson split and teach it Bulk Up to win. Against Norman, Bulk Up, Leech Seed, and Mach Punch should win as long as you don't get outplayed by Vigoroth's Encore. Or you can stay Shroomish and do disturbingly well. Most of the stats Breloom gains on evolution are offensive. Its HP and special defense remain the same, and its defense only goes up by 20 points. You don't care about your offensive stats if you're using Leech Seed as your primary damage, which works well enough to nearly solo Watson. It can pair with pretty much any Intimidate Pokemon to beat Norman as well. Both of these Pokemon are kind of equally bad until you get to Juan, and Breloom isn't winning any prizes on that fight either, so honestly, I say just go for the delay. I mean, Breloom is fine against the Elite Four without Spore. It can sweep Sydney just like like Spore Breloom can. It's just slower because you have to switch out and reset your boosts every time the lead Mightyena clicks Sand attack. Glacia is another difficult sweep to set up, but again with Spore, it's completely free. It struggles in the last couple of fights, dying to Drake's flamethrowers and Wallace's ice beams, but it can serve as a fine opener on Wallace to set up Spore and Leech Seed onto Wailord. Xatu has two things to set it apart from other Calm Mind users: an Earthquake immunity and access to Giga Drain through a TM. You can full sweep Juan thanks to Xatu's naturally high speed, and you can set up on Wallace's Whiscash to attempt something similar there. Assuming you have the Oddish dupe, Xatu also has a low opportunity cost in Safari Zone, as one of the other two encounters you can get in its area is, in my opinion, the best Safari Zone encounter in the game. Missing out on this will usually just reward you with an even better Pokemon. Kingdra is one of the better Drake counters. Because Shalgon almost always protects on turn 1, your first Dragon Dance is free. Afterwards, Shalgon might spam Rock Tomb at you, but that's fine. You only need that +1 boost. Dragon Dance as much as you can, and proceed to sweep with Ice Beam. If you don't want to use your return TM, you can tutor Double Edge in, is it in Sutopolis? Is it in Sutopolis? Is that tutor? Double Edge Tutor Emerald. Sutopolis City, baby. Boom! The tutor knower has logged on. The tutor. If you don't want to use your return TM, you can tutor Double Edge in Sutopolis to take out the opposing Kingdra reliably. Drake is one of the hardest fights to consistently beat, and Kingdra gives you a 1-slot solution, making it A tier. Ready for a lightning round? Electric types are super valuable in this game, with a Flying Gym, a Water Gym, and a Water Champ all appearing in the second half of the game. But it's Wallace in particular that makes all these electric types so good, thanks to what I call the standard electric opening. We're going to utilize Gen 3 AI to our advantage here. In Gen 3, if you kill an enemy Pokemon, the AI always switches in the Pokemon with the most effective move and the least effective typing on your Pokemon. This means if you kill Wailord with an electric type, Wallace will always send in Gyarados because it has Earthquake, allowing you to chain the water flying type for a double kill and bring in Whiscash, the easiest Pokemon to set up on in this fight. This opening will never win you the fight on its own, but it enables an insane amount of safe Wallace sweeps, including Xatu, whom we just talked about. There is an issue with this opening, because of Gen 3 mid-turn switch AI, Whiscash can actually come out early if Wailord survived your Thunderbolt and upend your line if your setup sweeper can't also take out Gyarados in the back. Despite this, every Pokemon that gives you the standard electric opening is A tier. Raichu is the most basic of the electric types with no additional value, putting it at the bottom here. So what about Manectric? Well, you know what they say, if you see an electric rat, it's nothing special. But if you see an electric dog, you're probably subscribed to Hassan. You get Manectric a bit earlier than Raichu, but it's more or less the same story. Notably, Electrike gets Thunder Wave for Watson, which can be huge for dealing with the enemy Manectric. Electrode also does the exact same opening, except it can also click Explosion if you really want some tempo or endgame insurance on Wallace.
Because he's holding a thermal detonator.
That's not all the electric types though. Some of them provide so much value that I would rank them much higher than this. Shiftry bodies Roxanne as a Nuzleaf and then is pretty much entirely useless all the way until Gym 7, where it is valuable by default against Tate and Liza as a dark type. Juan is where this thing really shines. Literally, using Sunny Day and Growth. At +2, it kills Kingdra. Access to Synthesis makes the setup very doable on Love Disc. Make sure to teach that move before using your Leaf Stone, by the way. Shiftry can also easily sweep Phoebe with Growth and Feint Attack. Finally, it can set up once again on Wallace's Whiscash, which has no good way to kill it. Shiftry rots in the box for quite a while, but once it's ready to come back out, it's the best grass type in the game. Volbeat doesn't offer much in the stats department, but it has access to Tail Glow, which prior to Gen 5 gives +2 special attack, and is learned at level 21, with some support and a Thunderbolt and Giga Drain TM. This works on Norman, Juan, Glacia, and Wallace. Volbeat can also sweep Sydney if it rolls Swarm as its ability, and you go in pre-damaged. There are definitely stronger setup sweepers in the game, but this has some really interesting synergies with a Pokemon ranked higher, so keep this guy in mind. Just like with Ninjask, Gorbis is here for Baton Pass shenanigans and not much else. I think it's actually the best Baton Pass Pokemon though. Amnesia, Agility, and Iron Defense are the best boosts to pass to a Battle Armor Pokemon. It also has a much better typing and defensive profile to sit in front of your Love Discs, Celios, Shelgons, and Wailords of the world. Swampert is the best starter in the game, but I think still slightly overrated. Mostly because you really want your bulky water types to actually resist water and ice moves in this game, and Swampert is stuck taking neutral damage. I actually think Mudkip's biggest value is that Marshtomp gives you a free line through Watson, even if Voltorb self-destructs. Don't get me wrong though, it's not useless in the late game or anything. It's a fantastic stat stick and does great things on Drake, standing up to Kingdra, dealing crazy damage with Earthquake, while also Ice Beaming Salamence and resisting its Rock Slide. He's just a bit underwhelming in terms of utility on Juan, Wallace, and Glacia compared to the other bulky water types. Wailord is a perfect example of the bulky water type that can stand up to the water and ice type moves in the Elite Four, but the real reason it's actually higher than Swampert is because of how essential it is for helping you catch the Reggies, and we'll get into why that's important pretty soon. Oh look, it's Regice. It's Reginald Ice, everybody. I can't do it. Regice is an insane Pokemon held back by the fact that the third Regi is simply better, meaning you don't really want to use your Master Ball or Rest TM on the Ice type. Not everyone can be as skilled as me and catch it on their first try. What the fuck? Still, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Rest, and Amnesia or Curse, while holding a Shell Bell, can be an incredibly potent set capable of destroying almost anything in the Elite Four, for those that want to use legendaries. Plusle gets a minimum A tier rating for enabling sweeps versus Wallace. However, it's actually pretty insane in the early game too. It shows up at a point where its single stage stats are actually really strong, good enough to beat Brawly with very little support. Later, you have access to Encore, one of the best moves in the game. Encore locks the opponent Pokemon into the last move it used, which is ridiculously powerful and fast Pokemon in a game where boss fights love to spam non-damaging moves. Plusle also gets access to Baton Pass later in the game and can pass agility to teammates. It's mainly held back by the fact that Minun is just better, but we'll cover why pretty soon. Tentacool can beat Flannery's Gym with the help of a Gyarados teammate, and your free Ice Beam TM lets it solo Winona. It really shines in the Elite Four though, where its potential Clear Body ability is key to making some of the Baton Pass strategies actually stick and not lose to stuff like Sand Attack or Rock Tomb. If you roll good enough stats alongside Clear Body, you can even just solo Drake with this. Being a Water Poison type also makes it one of the best counters against Wallace's Melodic if you teach the Toxic TM. Melodic is a beast as soon as you get it. Surf, Ice Beam, and Recover with 20 PP in this game, what the fuck? Will have you cruising through the rest of mid-game. It also has about a million different ways of humiliating Juan. My personal favorite is to pre-poison to activate Marvel Scale, use Facade to start the sweep, and once Kingdra shows up, use Refresh to clear your poison and PP stall it. Asper Berry is great here to avoid any nasty Ice Beam freezes. Melodic isn't quite capable of soloing the Elite Four like that, but it really only needs to worry about Glacia's second Glalie blowing up and only needs support for Kingdra against Drake. It struggles a bit on Wallace, but it can at least be a bulky switch in, and it's a great answer in the Melodic Mirror match if you run Toxic and Refresh. Absol starts out hot by soloing Winona with Swords Dance, Strength, and Thunderbolt. It then does its government-assigned Dark-type duties on Date and Liza. If you get off 2 Swords Dances against Juan, you can sweep, but even if you can't, there's an angle to beat Juan's Kingdra by switching in with a Lumberry and then using Perish Song, which self-targets and doesn't have to worry about double team. Absol can also sometimes sweep Sydney and Phoebe. With White Herb, it can tank 1 Rock Tomb from Shelgon and set up to +4, thanks to Shelgon's propensity for clicking Protect. Not a great sweep, but it can do a lot. And that's it for Absol, because it's too frail to deal with Wallace's team. But it has plenty of utility overall, and enough for a solid A tier ranking. Hariyama is guaranteed to appear by Watson if you repel manip for it, which is really convenient because a Guts Hariyama can solo the fight, but even Thick Fat will do insane work here. With decent stats, it can solo Norman as well. It's unfortunately just a bit weak to get through Winona with Strength, but it's surprisingly close. A Rest Talk set can sweep Juan with Vital Throw, and amazingly, Focus Punch. Juan loves his non-damaging moves. It's kinda insane how often Focus Punch actually goes off. Also remember, even though we usually use Poison or Burn to activate Guts, it also works on Sleep, so Sleep Talk fighting moves go crazy here. Additionally, Sleep Talk cannot call Focus Punch, so each Sleep Talk against Kingdra has a 50% chance to hit Vital Throw, which can't miss the Kingdra, and Hariyama has the bulk to tank Kingdra's moves. He can literally sweep in his sleep. He just needs to put on his CPAP mask, put it on high, and he's ready to go. Hariyama also does fantastically against Sydney and Glacia. Another Rest Talk solo sweep is possible against Drake, but most likely you're going to have to cut it short when Salamence comes out. Still a really strong answer there. And on Wallace, you can gamble with Focus Punch on turn 1 against the Wailord to try and catch it setting up Rain Dance. If you hit, you're in an amazing position. Hariyama is an incredibly versatile Pokemon. It's not the only one that can do this, Machamp gets pretty close, but Hariyama is both much bulkier and easier to find, so it gets the edge here. Crawdon gives plenty of value over the final 7 fights. It's maybe the best Dark type for Tate and Liza. It then becomes Gorbis or Ninjask's ideal Baton Pass receiver, starting on Juan, particularly if you roll Shell Armor. Pass it some speed, maybe some defenses, click Swords Dance, and go off. Mightyena makes a Baton Pass setup kinda tough to pull off, but we're right back in with Baton Pass strategies for the final 4 fights. Phoebe, Glacia, Drake, and Wallace can all be beaten by Crawdon as long as you have the right ability and the Baton Passer to enable it. Minun being better than Plusle all comes down to slightly higher special bulk, and more importantly, one moveset quirk. Plusle gets Fake Tears while Minun gets Charm, giving its teammates way more opportunities to set up, making Minun the second best support Pokemon in the whole game, as well as the best electric type for your standard opening. Slacking is most known for its insane legendary level stats, but as a Nuzlocker, my eyes are actually on its ridiculous moveset. Encore, Yawn, and Slack Off are 3 insane support moves it gets to utilize throughout the whole game as Vigoroth, starting as early as Brawly. Yawn is really useful against Watson as well. It's capable of soloing Norman, Flannery, and Winona with bulk up. Same goes for Juan, although you need a high speed Vigoroth to actually outspeed Kingdra. After Juan, you probably want to evolve your Vigoroth, because I think the best use for slacking is on the champion fight. Before entering the Elite Four, teach slacking Flail and poison it, running back and forth to get it down to 1 HP. Heal its poison and enter the Elite Four. Use your other 5 Pokemon to get through the Elite Four, and once you're on Wallace, put slacking in the lead position. Kill Wailord with Flail and switch to anything on your Loaf turn. Sacrifice that Pokemon and revenge kill with Flail. Repeating this 4 more times is guaranteed to win you the fight as long as Gyarados doesn't Dragon Dance and Ludicolo doesn't double team. So make sure your team is always baiting kills from them. I'd recommend not healing some of your low HP Pokemon after Drake. This is a pretty cool strategy, but it does force you into playing a pretty much perfect Elite Four, which is why it's not quite at the top of A tier. That spot belongs to Gardevoir, the best Calm Mind user, and with that the best Psychic type in the game. Not only is it the only Calm Mind user besides Girafarig with access to Thunderbolt, it learns both Calm Mind and Psychic without a TM by Watson. Trace has some fun niche applications like tracing own tempo off of Norman Spinda for immunity to Teeter Dance confusion. Imprison allows it to shut down Tate and Liza just as well as any dark type, as the twins won't be able to use Psychic or Calm Mind afterwards. It tracing an Earthquake immunity off of Claydol half the time is just a bonus. With only a bit of support, this Pokemon can find sweep on pretty much any early, mid, or late game fight. It's that exact reliance on support that bars it from the highest of tiers though, because the upcoming Pokemon are all entirely self-sufficient. This is the shit tier. No, not like shit tier. I mean like, this is the shit tier. Okay, in hindsight, I see why this name doesn't work. This is the top shelf, the cream of the crop, the cat's pajamas. Just 7 Pokemon hold this exclusive title, able to surpass everything this game asks of you with such exception, they receive their own spot. Golduck fucking rules, and I swear I'm not being a quack.
Oh, brother, this guy...
Can sweep Winona with Ice Beam, which is pretty standard bulky water stuff, but on Juan, he gets weird with it. Here's the moveset. Strength, Aerial Ace, Psych Up, and Swagger from the Tutor and Slate port. Swagger Luvdisc 3 times, and then copy the maxed attack stat with Psych Up. The lead Luvdisc can't do anything with the Swagger attack boost, so it's free. Just make sure to switch until you hit the Psych Up without getting confused. You then outspeed and one-shot everything except for Kingdra, who can't really damage you at all, and whose double teams will be shut down by Aerial Ace. It doesn't do anything quite so crazy against Sydney and Phoebe, but serves as a good stat check. Against Glacia, Damp can stop the threat of explosion from Glalie, while Cloud9 cuts down on hail damage and helps you fight against Wall Rain, especially if you teach Brick TM. If you give it a White Herb against Drake to deal with Rock Tomb speed drops, just clicking Ice Beam is a pretty solid opener. Most importantly though, is his ability to get you a consistent Wallace sweep. If you kill Whaler with a Grass type to bait Melodic, and use the Snake as Swagger setup fodder. This means you have to invest your Rest TM to deal with Toxic, but holy fuck is this consistent. Psych Up even allows for a crazy YOLO strategy on Drake, where you just let his Kingdra Dragon Dance, and you click Psych Up anticipating a second one, removing all your speed and accuracy drops, getting you to +2/+2, and allowing you to sweep the rest of the fight with Return and Ice Beam. One of the reasons that Golduck is above other Elite Four sweepers here is a specific mechanic in the Safari Zone, where Golduck is a guaranteed encounter with some dupes. Have you ever seen these boxes and wondered what they're for? By placing Pokeblocks of a certain flavor into them, you can actually guarantee that only Pokemon who like that flavor show up as your encounter. And what flavor a Pokemon likes is tied to its nature. For example, only Pokemon with these natures like sweet flavored Pokeblocks. Notice anything? Apart from the neutral serious nature, these are all speed boosting. This is a massive deal for a Pokemon in Golduck's speed tier. Having an 80% chance to get that 10% speed boost is good enough, but Pokemon Emerald actually has a hidden badge boost mechanic, where every other gym badge boosts one of all of your Pokemon stats by 10% permanently. The nature and badge boosts stack multiplicatively, resulting in a whopping 21% boost to your Pokemon speed stat, if you didn't hit the neutral nature. Golduck has a pretty average base speed of 85, but this boost stacking actually allows even a 15 IV Golduck to outrun Drake Salamence, the fastest enemy Pokemon in the game. This consistency, combined with the fact that a bug makes it impossible for Safari Zone encounters to run away when you use Pokeblocks correctly, is why I rank these Safari Zone encounters so highly. The consistency of this mechanic makes it ripe for abuse. By far my favorite abuser, I mean, that is to say, the best manipulator, no wait, that's not better. The Pokemon who uses these Safari Zone strategies the best is Heracross. Pre-damaged 200 base power stab reversal, coming off of 125 base attack. Pilot is crying and pissing itself in the corner right now. The Juan reversal sweep is stat dependent, as the Kingdra can survive or outrun with bad attack or speed IVs respectively, but against Sydney and Glacia, it doesn't matter. Reversal just wins. To make sure we can get as much XP as possible into Heracross, by the time we hit the champ fight, we have to do some trickery. Get it right to the edge of the level cap before entering. Equip XP share on the Phoebe fight that it can't sweep. On Drake, kill Shelgon into Flygon, which should perfectly get you to level 58, and while the level up does get you out of max reversal damage range, you can simply click Endure once on Altaria to get back down to 1 HP. Now you just need to solve for Drake's backline, and its mate in 2. Reversal Heracross will sweep all of Wallace's team until Gyarados comes out with only only Milotic in the back. From here, sack something to Gyarados, take it out with your electric type, and as long as Heracross is untouched in the back, you can no longer lose. This E4 sweep requires only a Phoebe answer, which is incredibly easy to get, an electric type, and answers to Altaria, Salamence, and Kingdra to be 100% consistent. This is a very technical setup that requires a lot of planning, foresight, and encounter luck to use, but if done correctly, it's pretty much impossible for this late game plan to fail. But for those less fond of these high aggression, high risk strategies, might I suggest the next Pokemon in S tier, rank 5, Walrein. Walrein might be the single easiest Pokemon to use out of all of these S tier monsters. This thing really is a god. At stalling, it's the best use of your Toxic TM. It learns Rest naturally, it's immune to Hail and Freeze, both of which are pretty significant in the late game. It has the most brain-dead strategy against Juan's Kingdra, as you can just spam any non-damaging move like Growl onto it until Kingdra runs out of PP before ever being able to kill you through rests. There are only a few fights, Drake most notably, where it can't just sit there and be annoying for the entire fight. There's definitely a world though where you can solo the entire Elite Four with Walrein, but you should bring back up for stuff like Wallace's Gyarados and Ludicolo, Glacia's Exploding Glalie, and Drake's backline. This is the best defensive Pokemon in the entire game, for those that don't play with legendaries. Rank 4, Registeel. I've been setting up the Regis for pretty much this whole video, and here's the payoff. Registeel is by far the second best Regi, behind the obvious of course. The basic set is simple: Amnesia, Curse, Return, and Rest with a Shell Bell equipped. Set up, heal as necessary, become unkillable, win. Unfortunately, this means that Registeel will be useless on Phoebe, but that's a small price as Reginald Steel is basically safe to use on every other fight. Yes, Amnesia and Curse leave you open to crits, but the amount of damage this Pokemon can tank is absolutely insane. There's a crit? Dude, this thing is so broken! That was a Hydro crit, bro! Look at the value I'm getting from Shell Bell in this clip, by the way. You can potentially lose to Wallace or Drake, but you'd have to get giga unlucky with crits. And even then, there's a great chance you'll have enough left in the tank to win the battle, even if Registeel dies. You know, I was testing this Mon and screaming about how absolutely broken this set is. The twist here is that I only realized at the end of the test run that in all the footage you've been watching, I didn't even have return damage maxed out on Registeel. It didn't have max friendship. Its damage was operating at like 70% of what it could have been. People are saying this Reginald isn't max friendship. That sounds actually right. Yup, this really is one of the most disgusting Pokemon you can use in any Nuzlocke. But I think the next Pokemon has been S rank on so many tier lists that at this point, we might just be able to give it the title of legendary as well. Ocean Coil, water boils, he swims to the surface. Flame from mouth, smoke he breathes, enter the caverns of the deep. Rank 3, Gyarados. Once you're past the death trap that is Watson, Gyarados is useful in almost every single fight in the game. Okay, yeah, I know, it's Gyarados again, but it'd be dishonest not to put him here, right? It combines with Tentacool for a consistent Flannery sweep thanks to Dragon Rage damage on Torkoal. Its Intimidate makes Norman slacking much easier to deal with. Thanks to learning both Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, it can solo Winona. Just be careful to Ice Beam on the Swablu, you can lose your Gyarados in an instant to Mirror Move Thunderbolt. Then comes the Elite Four, where the Leviathan leaves no survivors at sea, thanks to the combination of Taunt and Dragon Dance. Taunt makes it so easy to find setup opportunities that other Pokemon can't, with all the non-damaging moves these elite Pokemon want to throw out. Remember that Taunt only lasts 2 turns in this game though, so you have to reapply every other turn. The Gyarados sweep is free against Sydney and Phoebe. Against Glacia, you're risking Body Slam paras, but just bring a Lumberry and don't get paralyzed twice, and you'll wipe out even this fight. At +4 you have it for sure, and you can risk it at +3 if you need to, because Walrein can't kill you, even if you miss the KO. It's back to straightforward against Drake and Wallace, as long as Shelgon clicks Protect at least once, and Wailord doesn't Blizzard Freeze you. Twice. Gyarados just has such an incredible combination of stats, typing, ability, and move pool. It's only really held back by the fact that its sweeps are sometimes a bit stat and nature dependent, and it has to get slightly lucky on the later fights. There's another endgame sweeper, however, who cares a lot less about whether or not fortune favors him. Rank 2, Lanoon. The first 2 gyms are really unkind to Zigzagoon, but as all my fellow Gooners know, it takes some time to find the best results. Once you're through to Watson, this thing already becomes really good. There's 2 ways to play it. You can evolve to Linoon as soon as possible and get access to it by the Watson split, where it's really useful as it can outspeed and one-shot the lead Voltorb and make self-destruct a non-issue. It's also really strong against Winona, where you can actually solo sweep with Ice Beam and Thunderbolt TMs. It's faster than Slacking, so you can use Dig to solo it. Alternatively, you can delay evolution until after Winona, which allows you to learn Belly Drum, a move that costs half your HP but quadruples your damage output 12 levels earlier, just in time to sweep Juan. Go Berry against Love Disc, and you don't have to worry about confusion, leading to a free Belly Drum sweep. Regardless of your evolution level, the exploitable AI on the Elite Four's lead Pokemon make this, in my opinion, the most consistent Elite Four sweeper in the entire game. Sydney is a little inconsistent, but let's be real, everyone sweeps that guy, including Machoke. Teach Shadow Ball TM, Belly Drum on Dusclops Protect turn. That's Phoebe. Belly Drum on Celio's Hail turn, that's Glacia. A White Herb prevents the unlikely scenario of Shelgon using Rock Tomb to drop Linoon's speed on turn 1, that's Drake. Finally, all Linoon needs for Wallace is a turn 1 sacrifice Pokemon that can set up Sunny Day to force Wailord into rain dancing as you Belly Drum, leading you to victory every single time. So this has to be it, right? A Pokemon that consistently sweeps Gym 6, 8, and pretty much the entire Elite Four with minimal support. This has to be the best Pokemon in the game, right? What could possibly be better than this? The answer surprises even me. Rank 1, Illumise. If Walrein is the easiest Pokemon to use in this game, Illumise is perhaps the hardest. I see those atrocious stats, and yes, I see that it's a bug type, and yes, I'm fully aware that it doesn't even have access to Prankster. But look at this fucking move pool, man. Look at it. It's a skilled Nuzlocker's wet dream. Illumise is the single best support Pokemon in the game, and it's also the only Pokemon that has a legitimate niche against every single fight. The only legal Charm user on Brawly to deal with bulk up boosts, a Wish Healer for Watson, Charm and Encore for Norman, Winona, and Tate and Liza, about a billion different ways to disrupt Flannery's and Juan's lead Pokemon and open the path for any setup you want. I think my favorite is against Flannery or Winona, where you can use Flatter to get the enemy Pokemon to +6 special attack, locking it into some useless move with Encore, getting your Spoink in, copying the boost with Psych Up and sweeping. Notice how nearly all the best Pokemon in this game are setup sweepers. Notice how all of them have some sort of condition attached to them, need some sort of inconsistency solved, some sort of hole patched. Leading with Illumise will let you set up a position for any Pokemon on this list that has a setup move to do whatever it wants on any fight. I tested this Pokemon for hours and hours on every single fight, and I still feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of the insane synergistic potential. But that's not even all. There's one more thing that elevates this Pokemon into almost a tier of its own. Normally, breeding for new encounters is not allowed by Nuzlocke rules. Not because that's an actual rule in the standard rule set. There's no encounter location rules preventing you from picking up eggs either. Eggs are usually ruled to be your encounter for the area you hatch them in. Breeding can't be done within the confines of the standard hardcore Nuzlocke rule set because of Dupe's Clause. You can only ever have one Pokemon from the same evolutionary family. There's something special about Illumise here, however. Breeding an Illumise with a male Pokemon of the bug or humanoid egg group will result in an egg with a Volbeat inside, and Volbeat and Illumise do not share an evolutionary family. This Volbeat is a perfectly legal encounter. Its fathers can be encountered all over the game, and female Skitties and Jigglypuffs can help increase your chances for them even more. The reason this is so nuts is that these Pokemon actually synergize perfectly with each other. Illumise is the exact support Pokemon that Volbeat needs to get set up. So not only is Illumise the best support Pokemon, and at least in my opinion the best overall Pokemon in Emerald, it even allows you to add a free A-tier Pokemon to your roster that plays perfectly off of its enabling strategies. I can't think of a single Pokemon in any vanilla Nuzlocke run whose potential is so incredibly high. And that's it. That's my list. After nearly 100 hours of research into this game, I really do feel like I understand it on a much deeper level. You know, they say if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss also gazes back into you. More than anything, in the process of making this video, I think I learned something about myself. The question I've been asked by far the most in my 10 years of streaming is, what is your favorite Pokemon game? For a long time now, my answer has been, I don't know. The question itself has become incomprehensible to me. The whole concept of my online persona is to stack changes and rule sets on top of these games until playing them finally becomes an engaging experience to me. I've spent almost my entire adult life disassembling them and putting them back together. It's like looking at a word for so long its spelling no longer makes sense to you. I understand what is being asked. What does someone who plays these games every single day think the best generation is? Is it the one you like the most? A lawyer reacting to your favorite law show, a dentist recommending your toothpaste. As a streamer, I have an unhealthy obsession with intellectualizing these questions. to be equipped with a perfectly laid out set of arguments to justify my answer to a chat room of strangers, opening the floor for an endlessly repeated debate. Ever since I first joined online Pokemon spaces nearly 20 years ago, I've witnessed, participated in, and perpetuated these conversations. In this environment, every generation is defined solely by its greatest strength and its greatest flaw. It's where it all started, but it's riddled with bugs. A spectacular return to an older region via an awful level curve. The music is fire, but the HP bars are glacial. Gorgeous, animated sprites that look just a little too much like Digimon. 3D models of megas inspiring an inner child were robbed of all vibrant color. 1,000 A-presses worth of empty dialogue getting a most charming set of tropical islands. I know Dexit was a crime upon the very spirit of Pokemon itself, but the tree didn't look that bad, guys. Promises of an open world, sparsely kept, but at least they tried. Regurgitated talking points, caught by millions of parrots, millions of times, across the vast and shallow oceans of the digital age. Yet there's one generation that refuses to be broken down in this way. A lot of people cite Emerald as being their favorite Pokemon game. But why? Divorce yourself from the emotional reality of nostalgia for just a minute and indulge in this act of pointless intellectual pervertry. Let's roll in the engagement baiting filth together. Out of all Pokemon games, what is Emerald best at? What is it worst at? Trumpets are awesome, but there's too much water? Compared to the rest of the series, none of its strengths or flaws ever stood out to me. Is Emerald just the jack of all trades but master of none? Is Generation 3 the best simply by virtue of not being the worst at anything? Or is there something else going on here? It was through the research of this video, ironically yet another unnecessary exercise in deconstruction, that I finally found my answer. The fight where I really noticed things were off was Brawly. This fight has layers to it, man. The central move here is Bulk Up, letting the Pokemon gain both attack and defense on the same turn. The game puts you on a clock, forces you to select the correct move every turn. As I was throwing more and more early game encounters at this fight, I realized how many lines of defense were built around its central pieces. Tail Whip and Growl, normally early game tools, to get value out of your weaker encounters, go tempo negative against Bulk Up. Machop's Guts ability makes status-based strategies much more scary to use. Makuhita's strongest move being Vital Throw nullifies Sand Attack. This Pokemon has an ungodly amount of effective HP, with not an Oran but a Citrus Berry that heals it back to basically full HP on top of Brawly's potions. The Meditite set of Focus Punch and Double Screens genuinely looks like something straight out of a ROM hack. It again forces players to attack, eliminating any chance of them repositioning for Makuhita, while setting up screens to support it in getting off its first bulk ups. Brawly rewards players for understanding the concept of physical and special moves. Moreover, it teaches the player the value of pressure and tempo. Its 3 unevolved fighting types, a triptych of boss design. It's, in my mind, a brilliantly built fight. Once I saw it on Brawly, I was seeing it everywhere. Flannery's frontline, setting up Light Screen and Sunny Day, which power down the only special type fire is weak to. This lets her physically defensive Torkoal wreak havoc with its White Herb Overheat combo. Winona's Altaria, a perfect balance of manageable when first sent out, but brutally powerful if left to dance to its own devices. It's that concept of forcing the player to build pressure again. Tantalizes Gym using an Earthquake spammer with 3 airborne Pokemon. Juan has his demonic Kingdra, only for Drake to also have a Kingdra that is threatening in a completely different manner. Sydney's combination of disruption and setup moves, Phoebe's stacking of PP stall effects, and finally Wallace, the only truly terrifying monotype champion Game Freak has ever made. Combining damage-dealing threats like Gyarados and Wailord with bulky walls like Ludicolo and Melodic to test one last time if you've understood exactly when to go on the offensive and when to step back in a more defensive playstyle. Even Roxanne's fight, while very similar to Brock, gains just a few extra intricacies, with Nose Pass not having a 4x weakness and the move Block trapping your Pokemon in the matchup permanently. The lead Pokemon in almost all mid and late game fights seem specialized to stop you from setting up and sweeping. Swablu's Perish Song, Lovedust's Confusion Spam, Mariana, Dusclops, Celio, Shalgon, Wailord, they all have tools that make setting up in their face challenging or even impossible. I set out to break this game, and even I, equipped with decades worth of high-level Pokemon knowledge,
basically never found a straightforward one Pokemon line that gave me a guaranteed win on any of these fights. I don't think it's a coincidence I've had to come up with more creative strategies here than in any other game I've tested. I'm not saying Emerald is a difficult game. That'd be really embarrassing to admit as a 30-year-old. I play Pokemon for its simple but deep combat system. The identity of my channel is built around getting the most out of that specific single-player experience, and Emerald has the best boss fight design of any Pokemon game. Within a less cynical part of my brain, I always knew that this was true. But after working on this video, I finally know and can confidently explain why. Emerald is my favorite Pokemon game of all time.